Closure of national roads, shutdown of the economy, and large-scale extensive damage to property, threat to human life, and nationwide public violence.
The state believes the accused's social media comments at the time fueled the riots. However, the MK party has dismissed the case as just a political witch hunt. The matter will be heard in the Durban High Court this morning. And Mavuso Eyewitness News, Durban.
Some economists believe the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee is likely to keep the repo rate unchanged today. It comes a day after inflation remained steady at 3.2%. Stats says the consumer price inflation flatlined in February, putting an end to 3 consecutive increases in the months before. The central bank's MPC will wrap up its meeting on policy rates later today, with renewed concerns about inflation expected to weigh on the 6-member committee. Nawukanyam Dambo has more.
Wits Business School professor Yanni Rousseau says the recent VAT increase has added a spanner in the works.
It will increase inflation expectations because we know that higher VAT often leads to higher inflation.
Economist at Sanlam Investments Patrick Buthelezi says the Trump factor is also a cause for concern.
Escalating trade wars are raising concerns about higher inflation, which could keep interest rates higher for longer or even result in renewed hikes.
Should actual inflation continue to undershoot, inflation expectations remain well behaved and the US Fed resumes its cutting cycle, the Bureau for Economic Research says the SARB may be tempted to cut again later this year. Nogukanyam Dambo, Eyewitness News.
The attempted murder trial against controversial businessman Edwin Sodi is expected to start this morning. Sodi is accused of trying to murder his estranged wife in their Bryanston home in 2022. He was released on 150,000 Rand bail. Khomoso Modise has more.
Apart from being released on R500,000 bail for his corruption case in the Free State, where he stands accused alongside former ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule, Edwin Sodi is also out on bail for a domestic violence matter. Sodi faces charges of attempted murder, assault to cause grievous bodily harm, and pointing a firearm. It's alleged he attacked his estranged wife in Tateng Larata and a friend in their Bryanston home. As the state opens its case today, its first witness is expected to take the stand. Khomoso Modise, Eyewitness News.
And the DA wants all parties in the GNU to be consulted on any ambassador appointments. South Africa is due to send a new ambassador to the US following the expulsion of Ibrahim Rasool. Such appointments are the mandates of the president in consultation with the International Relations Minister. The two people who occupy both those positions are ANC members. But DA's Emma Powell says the ANC cannot single-handedly determine the government's foreign policy.
The DA has called for a formal review of foreign policy at Cabinet. This includes the adoption of a consensus-based approach to the appointment of ambassadors. The ANC no longer enjoy an outright majority and are no longer at liberty to single-handedly determine South Africa's foreign policy without consulting their partners in government.
Gold is trading at $3,052.19 an ounce. The rand is at 18.12 to the dollar, 23.56 to the pound, 19.75 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $70.96 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we still have got that accident on the N3 North. It happened right near Linksfield Road. Delays from Van Buren Road. There's also queuing traffic in the southerly direction approaching Linksfield due to onlookers there. If you are traveling on the N12 West, do expect heavy traffic volumes between Edenville Road and the Gilulis interchange.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with isolated showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 24 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. MK Party Member of Parliament Duduzile Zuma Sambudla is expected to stand trial today in connection with the 2021 July unrest.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
What are the matters that matter to you?
702 listens.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Thursday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for being with us here on 702, and thank you for just tuning in. We love being in your company. I was actually surprised this morning that there was no traffic on the roads, and Amu is telling me that that's probably because people have taken advantage of the holiday tomorrow and they've taken today's off. Some of you have called in sick, and I say sick in inverted commas, because are you really? You just want to have a much longer weekend. But thank you for listening, wherever you're listening from, in the office, in the car, at the gym. The 702 open line starts now on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. There's so much to talk about this morning. So first of all, I had Bongani this morning talk about this day that is International Day of Happiness. It's a day that was established by the United Nations General Assembly back in 2012. And the aim really is to recognize the importance of happiness and well-being in our lives, as well as to encourage kindness, appreciation, and mindfulness. And I just thought to myself, this morning was probably my happiest in recent time, because I found myself among young people, and for some reason that made me happy. So I was invited to St. Peter's College this morning to come give a talk about human rights, and that's where I went this morning. So it started in the morning, and when I arrived at the school at St. Peter's College, I was just filled with so much positivity and so much happiness. I was smiling all around as I was greeting everyone. It was so good, first of all, to be in a school environment like that. But it was also so great to engage with these young people, because that reminded me of where I come from. It took me back to when I was their age, and I was trying to figure out how is life going to turn out to be. And I gave my talk, and then there was like a conversation with the wonderful learner there by the name of Lisa, and then people were asking questions. We were engaging with each other. Some of the questions were really tough, but I loved it. I was in my happiest space. And when I heard Bongani talk about this International Day of Happiness, I thought that is what truly made me happy in recent times. Nothing compares to it in recent times. And I want to ask you the same question this morning. What was the happiest day of your life? And I know that's easy for especially parents, because they'll go on and on about, when I gave birth to my children. And I've spoken about this before, where I said, sometimes parents feel the pressure to appreciate and love parenthood, which is great. I think a lot of them do. Probably 99% of parents love parenting. But often when you ask them about the happiest day of your life, like, when I gave birth to my little bundle of joy. And maybe that is the case for you. Give me a call on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. What is your happiest memory? When was the last time when you were truly, truly happy? Was it when you graduated? Was it when maybe you gave birth to your first child, or your last child, or your middle child? What was that moment for you? Especially a moment that really filled you with so much happiness, and you still reference it. Or maybe you want to reflect in recent time. What's really made you happy? You can share that with us. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. There's a story as well in the Sowetan newspaper. It's on page 7 if you want to check it out. The headline says, Court terminates relationship between deadbeat dad and kids. So the High Court in Johannesburg has ruled in favor of a mother, who was the applicant in this case, and terminated the parental responsibilities and rights of her husband, the respondent, in respect of their 2 children. So this is a couple that was married in December back in 2009. They have 2 children. The oldest was born in 2012, the youngest in 2015. And according to the mother, as she approached the court, the parties separated in 2016 when her partner informed her he was leaving. And since then, the man has played no active role in the lives of the children. So this man basically last had contact with his own children back in 2016 during an appointment at the office of the family advocate. And that's what I never really understand about men or fathers. How are you comfortable living your life? And I'm talking here about fathers who have the opportunity to interact and be with their children, right? Of course, I'm aware that there are fathers who are simply not allowed to see their children. Some women out there are using their children as a weapon. I'm aware of that, yeah? But I'm also aware that we do have fathers or even mothers who are enjoying life out there and they know that they've got children. They don't care what their children are eating this morning. When they're busy having dinner tonight, are they not thinking about that? And especially if you are not blocked from participating in your children's life. So this court has heard that despite a recommendation from the family advocate for rebonding therapy, the man did not even attend any of those scheduled sessions, even after the mother arranged and negotiated a reduced rate. So the mom was actively trying to create space for this man to have a relationship with his own children. Now the court has terminated that relationship between the dad and the kids. And the question I want to ask you this morning, given the context of this article, is should a deadbeat parent continue to have parental rights to their children? Or should their rights be terminated, like we've seen in this court? Because there are parents who have failed to maintain a personal relationship with the children. They have failed to show commitment to the children's well-being or to even provide financial or emotional support to them. So do you, and I want to hear from some of you, if you have a deadbeat parent in your life, how do you manage that? If you, as a man or as a woman, your partner or former partner has not shown any interest in helping you raise the children, they have not shown any commitment to the children that they have brought to this earth, what do you how are you managing that, number one? And what do you think of this judgment where the court intervenes and terminates that relationship? And by the way, the court also heard from the children of this man, and the children were very clear. They said, we don't really care. We don't want any relationship with this man, because they have also been disappointed too many times. There have been promises that this man has made. He has never showed up. So the children don't want a relationship with him either. And this man has himself to blame. When I saw it, I thought, oh, that's quite harsh coming from court. But when you actually read the context of the story and how this woman went at great lengths to create space for this man to be involved in the children's life and he simply didn't care, then I think you sort of understand. Share your thoughts with us on 011-883-0702. Your WhatsApp is on 072-702-1702. At 10 o'clock, we're going to do our hanging out feature. And today, I'm hanging out with Mavuso Msimang. This is an ANC veteran. He has been a civil servant. This is someone who has served in Home Affairs. He was the Director General of Home Affairs. He was the CEO of SA Tourism, the South African National Parks, the State Information Technology Agency. I can go on and on and on. We're going to get to know him better today. He's one of those veterans of the ANC that are so rational. Still the voice of reason that is often missing in our politics. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Thursday dialogue. Today, we're asking whether the ban on cannabis and hemp in food products is actually justified. Government has been criticized for this ban on cannabis and hemp products in food products. So I'm going to have government coming to explain why they've gazetted this notice banning the import, manufacturing, and the sale of any foods containing cannabis and cannabis products. I want to hear from other stakeholders as well who are saying there's a way that government can deal with this, and the way that it's just a complete ban doesn't make sense. Why not bring about regulations. Because they do agree, even people in the industry, that regulations is what's going to help, not a complete ban. Because you're now affecting small businesses. So we're going to talk about that on our Thursday dialogue at 11 o'clock. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Hi, Clement. My moment where I was so happy, it was when I was receiving the award for the Employee of the Year. It was in 2009 in Bulugwan. I received the award of the Employee of the Year. I was so happy. I even cried that day. Thank you, Thomas here.
Morning, Clement and the team. The happiest moment of my life was when I took the decision of going back to school at age of 25 and matriculated. I am now doing my final year with UNISA, only left with one module, doing bachelor's in criminology. And yes, I can say this is also the happiest moment of my life, and it was the best decision I've ever made. Thank you, Sam in Alberton.
Morning, Clement. Hope you're well, man. Clement, I am so happy for this lady for having gotten the right to take care of her kids, and the fact that this man got to a point where those rights were taken away from him. I really, really support the justice system, and we as men, we need to do better. We need to do better and get to a point where we need to understand with some of these things are really not right, and we need to just behave as men and do things that men are supposed to do. And some of those things are to look after our kids, and whether we are together as partners or not, and just be there for them. This man, this situation serves him right, and I hope a whole lot of us are going to learn out of this situation.
Yeah, I hope so too. There are so many men who have just simply not cared. They've just simply, basically, and let's be raw about it. They've just donated their sperm. That's what they've done. They've never shown any responsibility or care. You have brought children into this world. Are you comfortable this morning knowing that you have a child out there and you don't know how they slept last night? You don't know what they ate. You don't know how they're able to go to school this morning. And again, let's make a distinction here. I'm talking about parents who have never been blocked from seeing their kids. Are you comfortable with that? Your kids are out there. And you don't know how they're doing. That's why courts intervene like this. The roller coaster emotionally that children have to go through. Yo, Roy, you calling us from the Eastern Cape. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you doing?
Sharp, man. Go ahead.
Good, man. Greetings to all the listeners as well. You know, what I'm about to say now may seem controversial, but I mean, that's why we have radio server. That's why we have 702, for matters of controversy. The thing is, I hear this thing about fathers and so on, and not, but like about this mother. Basically, I will just say the word divorcing the father from the child's life and things like that. Firstly, I don't think she has the right to make that call. Secondly, the way it is dramatic, the way it is, these laws and regulations that we have are used against fathers is amazing. And why? I can say it with evidence because I lecture in private investigation. I lecture in corporate investigations. I've been doing this for 37 years. And in 37 years of my life, I'll tell you something, I've heard so much bad about fathers, but I haven't heard of a father throw a child in a dustbin. You know how many incidents I've come across? My stomach is really aching now. About mothers that have thrown children, the newborns, in beds. And Clement, we're almost the same age. When last did you hear of a father do that? Right? That's the thing. I'm going to say this straight up. All the kids are at school. This is an adult station. And there's nothing a man can do if you find your wife with a fresh condom in her handbag. If you question her, it's meant, and she doesn't want to answer, you can get charged for mental whatever, abuse. If you use vulgarity on her in a question, she can have you locked up for that. If you get angry with her, she can charge you again for mental abuse. So what recourse has a father got? Zero. Because I just asked a very important question. What can you do if you found you went for a Panado into your wife's bag where she asked you to reach for one and you pull out a freshly messed condom? What can you do? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So there's a lot you can do, Roy. First of all, is that your experience or is that hypothetical?
No. It's the truth. It's the truth.
I know, but I'm asking, is it your truth or are you using that as a hypothetical example or is it...
No. These are real life cases I came across during the course of my life.
All right. So here's what you could do. So you can walk away, Roy. If you are with someone...
Exactly. That's all you can do.
Yeah, wait.
Right.
Hold on 1 second. Walking away doesn't mean you walk away from your children. When you have been betrayed by your wife and you somehow believe that you have satisfied yourself that there's evidence that she's cheating on you, you can walk away. But it's actually walking away from your own children. That's not a sign of bravery. It is not.
So what you're saying is if your wife came home with a love bite, you cannot even ask her. You just
can, but which law says you can't ask?
You can't.
Which law says
you
that?
Can. And if she doesn't answer you, what happens then?
You can leave, Roy. When you are not happy and you don't think your partner respects you enough to take your questions, leave.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, the right thing to do is to leave. I agree with you 100%, Clem. I'm saying, but is the person even allowed to vent anything? If you ask the same question the second time and she refuses to answer, that's considered mental abuse. You see, because, and I'll tell you
where, under what law?
No, well, you say me under what law?
Yeah, so if I'm asking my partner, you are home, why do you have a love bite? And I ask it again tomorrow. I ask it again next week. Which part of the law somehow says that is not allowed and that woman can then, open a case based on what?
Yes, because it depends in the tone in which you ask that question. I mean, you're not going to sit passively. We're not saying you're going to get violent, but you're not going to sit like you're sitting in an ashram, and ask this question. Okay. So if you raise your voice or in that moment of anger use a vulgar term, that's it. You're done on that. You're finished. You can get locked up for using that vulgar language on her. You understand me? Now you'll say me, yes, it's not right to use that vulgar language. Yes, but can we control our anger 100%? 99% maybe, but 99% is not good enough. I understand what you're saying. But we leave this open for comment. I agree with what you say, but remember something. I've come across a number of cases where mothers have deliberately locked up fathers, left the children at home, went out jolling, and they had them locked up just because they needed to go out that weekend.
Yeah, and that is absolutely wrong. Roy, and they must be held accountable. But it's not all mothers also who do that. That's why earlier on I said there are cases where it could be mothers who have actually abandoned their own children. To circle it back to what we're discussing this morning, there maybe are mothers out there that have simply not shown any care whatsoever. What are my children eating? They're living fancy lives or comfortable lives wherever, or maybe not comfortable. Maybe they're struggling themselves. But do you ever ask yourself, what is happening to my child right now as you make it day by day? How are they making it? This court has terminated the relationship between a deadbeat dad and the kids. And I say kudos. Because when you read the story, you understand that this man has never really cared. Lebo, you're in Pretoria. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, morning, Clement. My wife and I were in almost the same situation as that father that we had a deadbeat father. So my sister-in-law passed away when the two kids one was 2.5 and the other one was 5. It's years later now. The oldest one is 16, and we had to deal. The father's been absent all along of the 16-year-old now, and we took them in, and they are our children. I mean, and we did we invited the court and said, look, if we are living with these children, we must have something on paper. And unfortunately, that ended up working against us, because at some point, the biological father came and wanted to claim rights to this child. And that was it really, we had to go through the court process of terminating his rights. I mean, he was already not doing anything.
Yeah.
He's not contributed a cent in the 10 years. He's not, his family did not even know the child. So, but now he shows up in court, wants to claim his rights. And what the court did is that they suspended his rights, the primary care, but they kept the contact rights. So and they said, okay, the child can go to him when they want to, which we don't have a problem essentially with.
Yeah.
But the point is that this is a deadbeat father. How are we expected to co-parent with this person and say to him, we want to make a passport for the child, give us your permission, we want to go out of the country with the child, give us your consent, when you are not even doing anything? The child had to miss a tour in December Europe tour in December because of this whole court process. So you can imagine what that does to us.
He doesn't deserve those rights, Lebo. He really doesn't.
At all. So, but even now, they last had contact probably in December, and it's quiet, no care about, never mind money. How are you doing in school? What is happening? Let's visit each other. He stays about probably 10 kilometers from us, but that does not even happen. So I really am happy for this parent who had the rights terminated, because she was going to face the same issue. She wants to live with the children. Now the father must write the affidavit, cannot get hold of the father. So you terminate to get that child out of parent out of your life.
Yeah, got it, Lebo. Thank you so much for that. Moeletsi, you are in Benoni. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
Sure. Go ahead.
So, Clement, I'm worried here. Remember, they are still young, these kids. And now, as time goes on, they would want to get married, maybe. There would be circumstances that may force them to what? To consult maybe traditional healers or something of that sort. And now what will happen, Clement, is one day we asked, at times you are being asked to look for your father's father, grave. What are they going to do under the circumstances?
Well, they can contact the dad. The court.
But then it's terminated.
No, Moeletsi, there's a difference. There's a difference here. Remember that court that the listener who just called us now says, the complication with having a deadbeat dad or deadbeat mother is that children's lives end up being affected. Now there's a child who's supposed to go to Europe on tour. She can't do it because the people who are guardians to this child have to consult with a dad who is not interested in the children's lives. That makes it a long process that is unnecessarily where children now can't participate in certain things. So it works to terminate those rights so that the guardians take full responsibility. They don't need to constantly come check in with a dad who's not interested to be involved. When the children are adults and they think, I want my dad, they are old enough to make their decisions. Nothing stops them from picking up a call and saying, Dad, I know you've never been there, but I need you now. Because this court ruling doesn't ban the relationship between the dad and no, it just says we're terminating the rights because there's so many things that are consequences when a father or a mother enjoys a right and yet they don't play a part. Children's lives end up being affected.
And then if this father says, you guys said you wanted nothing to do with me, what happens?
That's
will there
fine.
be any court decision? Will there be another court decision? And supposing this man now has turned out to be a Christian akasenandaba nalezi zinto zabo-traditional healer or what.
That's fine, Moeletsi. You can't force a father to come and do umsebenzi for you. You can't. If you're an adult and you say to your father, I need you now, and they say, yeah, but you guys terminated my rights back then. Well, actually, that's wild because there's a reason why your rights were terminated. You were not there in our lives.
Yeah, we have mina ngikhulula ngokuthini here. To me, the decision here court really high sharp. Maybe the court should have conferred those rights or responsibilities to any other person than to say, no, terminate, totally terminate. Yeah,
that's conferring. That's it. When you terminate, you take those rights to the guardian.
They should have conferred, other than saying and even letting the kids say no. They should have dealt with this matter in another way. Not to say, hey, we terminate the relationship. Yeah,
okay.
They should have actually said, instead of the father, because he's not working with.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's see. I got you. I'm late for news now. Let's hear what the other listeners think. It's 9:33. Swissa, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Some social grant beneficiaries have voiced their frustrations about replacing their SASSA gold cards with new ones from Postbank. Today is the deadline for the card swap, meaning from tomorrow, beneficiaries will not be able to use their old cards to buy or withdraw money inside stores. The lawyer for rape-accused Bishop Stephen Zondo says he's ready to take the witness stand in court and give his version of events. Zondo is accused of the rape and sexual assault of his congregants and staff. The leader of the Rivers for Living Water Church is also accused of raping a 7-year-old girl in 1980. And the African Union has welcomed peace talks between the leaders of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. The continental body has encouraged Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame to keep up the momentum from the meeting in Doha. Qatar unexpectedly announced that it had hosted the two rivals on Tuesday, where they agreed to work towards an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're leaving Germiston heading towards Alex, there's a serious accident scene. This is in Edenville on the N3 northbound before Modderfontein Road, causing about an hour delay all the way from the Ilans interchange. So avoid that route at all costs. Rather use the M2 and then get off at Joe Slovo Drive and then get on the M1 and then travel straight through Santon and then make your way to Midrand. There's also slow-moving traffic coming from the Boksburg, Kempton Park area heading towards Bedford View. That's the R24 N12 westbound between Edenville Road and the Gululis interchange. M2 westbound, this is coming from Germiston into the Joburg CBD. Traffic a bit sluggish between Joe Slovo Drive and the Crown interchange. Also coming from Boysons heading into the CBD. Bumper-to-bumper traffic, M1 northbound. That's between Boysons Road and the Crown interchange. In Alberton, there's slow-moving traffic. This is the R59 northbound between Michelle Avenue and the Reading interchange. Also slow-moving traffic in the Tembisa area. R21 northbound between the R25 Pafsfontein off-ramp and Olifantsfontein Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
What role does a reserve bank play in helping to grow the economy, given the challenges we're facing, of course, with the budget speech that still needs to be approved?
The role of the Reserve Bank and monetary policy is to create an investor-friendly or environment that is supportive of investment. If you have high inflation and if you have volatile inflation, this generally tends to transmit down the yield curve.
Dr. Kenneth Creamer is an economist based at the University of the Witwatersrand. The expectation is that there'll be no changes to the interest rate.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
It's Pick and Pay Hypermarket's long weekend price card. For 3 days only, get 2 1.5 litre Coca-Cola original taste, less sugar for only 20 Rand. That's right, 2 for only 20 Rands. No limits. Grab 2, a case, or even a pallet while stocks last. Only at Pick and Pay hypermarkets. Valid between the 21st and 23rd of March. T's and C's apply.
Simply Asia is giving away 4 tickets to Thailand. But who will you take with? Let's hear what is being said in South African homes.
I don't know, Gerald. I love Auntie Janine, but she talks so much. Imagine her on a 12-hour flight.
But what about Uncle Louis? He did pay for our wedding.
Darling, which child are we leaving behind?
Obviously the one who complains the most.
Hey, that's not fair.
Whoever you pick, just make sure you enter the Simply Asia Songkran competition. T's and C's apply.
How would you like to lighten the load when it comes to getting your freight there conveniently and on time? You can with a tag. No scrambling around for cash or a card. Less time wasted. Choose the convenient way. To drive smart, download the Sanral app to link your cards and manage top-up payments for your convenience. For more info, visit sunral.co.za. Tags are the way to go. Sunral, an agency of the Department of Transport.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. Your voice, your station, your open line. Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela on 702.
It's 22 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is the 702 open line. We're taking your calls on 011-883-0702. Kustas and Benny, I'm going to start with you in a moment. We're also taking your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. I'm asking you about this court judgment, the High Court in Johannesburg ruling in favor of a mother and terminated the parental responsibilities and rights of her husband in respect of their in respect of their 2 children, because the man was a deadbeat dad. There's so many times when women and sometimes men have had to tolerate parents who come back into the lives of children because it just works for them. They've never cared for so long what the children are eating, who's paying for their school, where are they sleeping. And when it works for them, they want to come in and play a meaningful role in the upbringing of the children. How do you deal with deadbeat dads or deadbeat mothers? There's a court case now that says terminate the rights of that man. Terminate the relationship between the man and the dad. And that makes it much easier for the guardians or for the mother or the father who's raising the kids to actually do so in peace without the constant consultation with the father, because some of our laws require that. You want to apply for a passport. You want to travel with the kids. There's so much you need to get permission from a man who's never shown interest in the kids. What do? And again, we're not talking here about fathers who have been refused access to their children. We're having a completely separate conversation here. Fathers have never been blocked. They've just deposited their sperm and they're gone. They don't care about what the kids are eating. I say kudos. It's about time that the court intervenes in this manner. We're also asking you about what was the last time you were so happy. Today is International Day of Happiness, and I've been asking you about recently or maybe a while back, what was that moment when you were the happiest? I told you this morning I was at St. Peter's College, and it was really a lovely, happy moment for me, engaging with the learners there about human rights and taking questions from them. It was beautiful to be in the school grounds. It has also made me happy to see how self-sufficient the learners are. They're involved in the music. They do the sound. It's just incredible. Like, they are literally in charge of operations in and around the school. And that was just fascinating for me. What is it for you? That happiest moment that you reference and you think, That was the moment I was so happy.
Hi, Clement. You always ask interesting questions, man. Prince from Pretoria. My happiest moments are two. They always stands out. The first is 6 February 2016. It was my first flight, and my first flight was international. I was going to Dubai, going to connect to India. It was 10 of us. We were interns, so we just were taken to India by this Indian company for a training in India. Man, we had the time of our lives. But
Amazing.
that flight was really instrumental for me because I've always wanted to take a flight. I do love aviation, and the fact that my first flight was international, I was excited, calling everyone I know that, listen, I'm in Emirates. I'm about to fly Emirates all the way to Dubai. And of course, the second one, man, is when I got married on 7th of May, 2022, man. Best moments of my life. Thank you.
Love it.
Hi, Clement. There are too many moments, but the one I can remember right now, it's when Argentina were taking the World Cup, especially Messi. I was so happy for him that at least that's the one last thing I think he was short of. Yeah. So I was so happy. Type of from Leondale. Shop.
Hi. The last time I was happy was in 2011 when I got my my matric at the age of 30. I got 2 distinctions in accounting and economics. And also the last time I got so extremely happy was last year on the 9th of December 2024 when I received my UNISA academic results that I have successfully completed my Bachelor of Education degree, Stuart Gaunakala, in Postmansberg.
Ah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Benny, you're calling us from Randfontein. Good morning.
Clement, how are you this morning?
I'm all right, man. What was your hit?
I've got 2 issues. The one that the happiest, and then the one that is, so disgusting.
Yeah.
As why would we want to divorce our kids when we no longer in good terms with their mothers and stuff like that? They want us to be born. We brought them into this world, and why do we have to, subject our kids to this kind of behavior? Even animals don't do that. They don't divorce their what you call their kids. Why are we? What type of men are we raising into young boys and even young girls? What type of the behavior we are instilling? That it's so disgusting. Clement, I know of some men, and this guy met this woman. He only has only 1 kid in the world, on earth, and he went to marry close to a woman with 4 kids. But he neglected the only seed on earth, and it's still even continuing today. And the child is almost close to 40, and she is angry at the father. She's angry at men. She's not even dating and stuff like that. So this is the type of the behavior that we as men, breed. We breed in our kids, and it's so sad. And I'm ashamed to be associated with such kind of men. And once I realized that you are in my circle and you're not taking responsibility of your own kids, you are gone with me. You get what I'm saying? I am a divorcee right now. But there is nothing that I will not do for my kids. I step up even when it requires. I don't need a court of law to force me to take my responsibility, because these kids are growing. They see what is happening, and we will be we will be raising the very same type of generation. We have to start taking responsibility as men. It can't be that when I'm divorced from the mother of my kids, 2 kids, then I don't step up as the kids. The only thing that I appreciate is that when there is something that concerns their schools, their activities and stuff like that, all of us, we we know what we do with our differences and stuff like. For the sake of that, we don't have to give the kids what some of our parents did. I did not know my father until I was 38, and I took that decision that I'm not going to subject my kids to the same treatment regardless of what happened.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you've also taken some lessons from what you've experienced, Benny, and that encouraged you to give your own children a different experience. Thank you for your thoughts, Benny. Kustas, what do you think? Hi.
Yeah, morning, Clement. Yeah, it's true. I must agree with the caller before to say you're bringing up interesting topics. Yeah, Clement, I am of the view that it's high time that the courts release more of these decisions, because I'm of the view that most men probably didn't want these children to start with. And they said that people are not honest in their relationship way before the child is present. Because I would say this, if you wanted a child, I don't think along the way you will turn and say you don't want them. You probably know that, because once you say you want a child, that's a lifelong commitment that way. So I don't think most men really wanted these children to begin with. So, however, we must then say, Clement, what would be the solution then to reduce fatherlessness? I think that because the law allows women to abort at any time, it must also give men the same rights to say that if he doesn't want to have the child, there must be a legal way for him to do so, so that it prevents fatherlessness. But at the same time, from a female point of view, if you want to have the child, you have to look at your circumstances and absolutely look at this man that you love and says, what happens when he's not here? If you cannot raise that child without him, then you're not ready for the child.
Yeah.
So don't have the child with him. No matter how much you can love him, he can tell you, no, I want the child. But if he does not want the child, that's a red flag. Close up. Lock every door that you can.
Not a close up. Oh, Kustas.
So when Clement, that is my thought, is that there must be a legal way where a man can say, I do not want this child.
Yeah.
Because the woman has a legal way where she says, I don't want this child, and she can go and abort without or with the permission of the man. So in that way, it reduces the fatherlessness of men running away from their responsibility. I don't think a man who wanted a child from the beginning would later change his mind and run away. I don't think, unless he's sick, of course.
Yeah.
But most men are not sick. But they never wanted these children to begin with. But I want to say, before I let you go, I want to finish with women who have raised children on their own. And I just want to say, thank God. If they've tried to make this to work with the father, it doesn't work, let them leave it there. Let them have peace with it and just continue. But for men, on the other hand, if you never wanted the child, you should have said it from the beginning, so that the woman doesn't be to thinking that she's going to raise the child with you.
Yeah, true.
So that she knows that you're not going to be there.
Kustas couldn't have said it better. What Kustas says there. And he's stressing that message. Hashtag, what? Close up and lock everything. It's 10 minutes before 10.
Sunday.
A day to exhale.
To breathe in the melody.
Unwind with Soulful Sundays on 702.
Kenny Maestri starts your day
With smooth R&B and timeless classics from 10 a.m.
at 2 p.m.
Hoshaza Sidia keeps the good vibes flowing with rich, soulful sounds.
And as the night sets in, let Lutemba Madumo
Take you on a journey with jazz and beyond.
From 6 to 9 p.m.
Soulful Sundays.
Relax, unwind,
and let the music move you.
Only on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Dear Journal, day 4642 of trying to be an adult. I miss when being a millennial meant I was young, dumb, and broke. Now, it just means I'm old, out of touch, and, you guessed it, still broke.
Aggressively realizing your age? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's simple and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Make soccer season legendary with Hollywood Bets. Aziz Shagay, Let's Play takes your disky passion to the next dimension. Light up the games with your best bet slip and stand a chance to win your share of 2 million Rand in prizes, including a brand new Toyota Fortuner. Bet a minimum of 10 Rand on any soccer fixture to qualify. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bets supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Managing your workforce shouldn't be complicated. That's why businesses choose Onacy, a proudly South African cloud-based payroll and HR solution. From payroll and e-recruitment to performance management and self-service tools, we streamline the way businesses handle their people. Scalable, secure, and always online, our system evolves with your needs because your workforce deserves the best. Switch to Onacy and experience payroll and HR done right. Visit onacy.com today.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
8 minutes before 10 o'clock.
Good morning, Clement and the team. You know, this topic of deadbeat dads, you know, I'm fortunate enough that the father of my child is not a deadbeat. He's very present. However, the only concern I have is that he doesn't want us to spend time with the child as mom and dad, as parents, you know, just so the child can see that, you know, she has healthy parents. And I don't know if it's a pride thing or an ego thing, but, you know, he makes it difficult to create that atmosphere. But my mom always tells me that, you know what, don't stress. These children will eventually see for themselves and they'll be able to make their own choices. So at the end of the day, it's their loss, not the kids.
Yeah, look, I think that's a little complex. I think that's a little complex because... So, and I want to give you an example. So there are women out there, right, who have been abused by their partners. Right? They were betrayed and abused, some physically. They were assaulted. They've decided to leave. Now, imagine that man that perpetrated that violence on that woman. And the woman plays their role, right, in caring for the kids. And the man says, I still want to be with you. I still want the kids to see us together as a happy couple or as mom and dad. That traumatizes that woman, doesn't it? It does. The woman has every right to say, I want nothing to do with you. I only want to connect with you in as far as it pertains to our kids. Just care for your kids, come pick them up, spend weekends with them, take them to school, do whatever you can. But I don't want to be in the same space. And I don't know what your circumstance is with your husband, but I don't think other partners should be forced to be in kids must see us together. I think when there's a separation that's happened, we need to be honest enough with the kids. And I'm not saying tell the kids all of the details of how this man used to do this to me, this woman used to do this to me. Explain to the kids that mommy and daddy are no longer together, but mommy and daddy love you. They love you so much that they're willing to put their differences aside to care for you individually, because we end up creating the wrong perceptions towards the kids. We're kids. I mean, there are some parents who haven't told their children that they're divorced. They've come up with a story because when the kids then see them together at the park, or we go in a restaurant or dinner tonight together, the kids think that the parents are trying to salvage a relationship. So I do think that it depends on scenarios, but I absolutely don't think that another parent, whether it's a mom or dad, must be forced to come and be family so that the kids see us as mom and dad. We must be honest to our children. Mommy and daddy are no longer together. Daddy has somebody else. Mommy is going to meet somebody else or has somebody else. But make no mistake, daddy loves you, mommy loves you, and we're going to do everything possible to be there for you. When there's a school play, I think there's nothing wrong with both of you being there. But to actually organize like lunch dates or dinner dates or park runs with the kids so that the kids sees us together, I think that can really be complex in some instances.
Hi, Clement. I'll remain anonymous. I think the court made a good decision in terms of terminating the relationship between the kids and the father. No one can be unavailable for that long. But also, the reason why I'm staying anonymous, I know a story from someone where a mother gave birth, without the father's knowledge. The father didn't even know that she was giving birth to his child. She told him previously she was terminating the pregnancy. She gave the child up for adoption, but months later, her conscience didn't allow her to go ahead with it. So she told him he has a child and they must go fetch the baby, which they managed to do. I think there were forms that were not finalized in terms of adoption, but I think after the event, the father should file for the mother to be cut off from the children. It's so wrong. Thank you.
Hi, Clement and team. About the deadbeat fathers, I think the courts are dangerously close to playing God, and that's never a good thing. I don't think the courts should have a right to terminate a relationship. Yes, they could terminate his rights to the children, absolutely. But terminating a relationship, I think only God has the right to do that. So, yeah, I'm not so sure about this one.
And this one, ma'am.
No, that's so boring. We need something special for the shoot.
What about this? The ultimate statement. Sleek, powerful, and timeless.
Now that's next level. The new GWM Jolien Pro HEV. I can already see the cover.
The Haval Jolien Pro HEV. Get ready for all the attention. From 6,199 per month. Visit gwm.co.za for T's and C's and to book a test drive.
Go with more. Go with GWM.
Get a true AI business partner from Vodacom Business when you get the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra on a Red Business 1.7 gig contract for 1,599 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 349 Rand extra per month over 24 months and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Let's go. Come on. That's it. You can do it. Have we heard about just a few more reps, please? You got this. You got this. And there you go. Stronger than ever. Nice one. So am I seeing you same time tomorrow? Oh, definitely. Love it. I'll see you then.
Meet our audience. Active, health conscious, and always up for a challenge. They're pursuing their fitness goals, sharing successes, and always listening. So if you're going to interrupt them, it better be good. Prime Media Broadcasting Sales. We help you connect with every determined, energetic, and passionate individual in our audience. From the gym to the boardroom, let's make sure your brand is heard. Contact us at advertise@primemedia.co.za today. Clement is on X
at The Real Clement M.
Coming up after the news at 10 o'clock, it's the Hanging Out feature, and today we're hanging out with ANC veteran Mavuso Msimang. You don't want to miss it.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. We start with news just in. There's been a shooting at the Doornfontein taxi rank downtown Johannesburg. Details are not clear at this stage, but it's believed that some people have been shot and taken to hospital. We'll have more details on this developing story in our next bulletins. Some social grant beneficiaries have voiced their frustration about replacing their SASSA Gold cards with new ones from Postbank. Today is the deadline for the cut swap, meaning from tomorrow, beneficiaries will not be able to use their old cards to buy or withdraw money inside stores. But the Postbank says it will continue with the card swap until the end of June this year. Ntutuzelo Nene has more.
More than 200 social grant beneficiaries have started to form a snaking queue outside one of the selected retail stores in Easter River. 70-year-old Eric Croy has told Eyewitness News that he's not happy queuing for the second day in a row without any help.
Been queuing ever since 5:45 today, and yesterday it was 5:45 yesterday, and I was about 50th in a row, and they closed the doors at 4 o'clock. It's absolutely nonsense.
The Postbank has confirmed migrating more than 1 million beneficiaries, with another 1 million still needing to switch. Ntutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News in Easter River.
The Western Cape High Court will today hear whether the state's star witness in the Jocelyn Smith trial is fit to proceed with cross-examination. Former accused Laurentia Lombard had to be removed from the dock twice yesterday after facing tough questions from the defense. Lombard has implicated Jocelyn's mother and her co-accused Jacqueline Apollos and Stefano van Rijn for allegedly selling the child to a Sangoma for 20,000 rand last year. Carlo Peterson has more.
Former accused and state witness Laurentia Lombard buckled under pressure yesterday during cross-examination. Lombard was being grilled about her version of events on the day before Jocelyn went missing. Judge Nathan Erasmus and defense attorney Fani Harmse questioned Lombard about discrepancies in her testimony related to whether her children accompanied her when she visited Smith on the day in question. Erasmus postponed the matter for Lombard to receive medical treatment after she seemed to have a panic attack. The matter is set to proceed today when the court hears if Lombard is fit to proceed. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Saldanha Bay.
The lawyer for rape-accused Bishop Stephen Zondo says he's ready to take the witness stand in court and give his version of events. Zondo is accused of the rape and sexual assaults of his congregants and staff. The leader of the Rivers of Living Water Church is also accused of raping a 7-year-old girl in 1980. The state has closed its case against him and the defense must now open its matter, but Zondo wants the presiding judge to be removed. Khomotso Modise reports.
After Archbishop Stephen Zondo's failed Section 174 discharge application, it's time for him to open his case. But he now wants Judge Bapi Mosopa to recuse himself, claiming Mosopa has already made a judgment against him. This is because Mosopa said the evidence given so far is credible, reliable and trustworthy. But attorney Kabelo Siabi says the judge must comment on the quality of the evidence.
You cannot just because the presiding officer has declared that the evidence at the end of the state's case could possibly lead to a conviction. That will not be an expression of bias.
Zondo's lawyers will bring their argument for recusal next month. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
And the African Union has welcomed peace talks between the leaders of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. The continental body has encouraged Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame to keep up the momentum from the meeting in Doha. Qatar unexpectedly announced that it had hosted the two rivals on Tuesday, where they agreed to work towards an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. Thousands of Congolese people have been killed in fighting between the military and M23 rebels, who are supposed to be supported by Rwanda's government. Gold is trading at $3,052.19 an ounce. The rand is at 18.12 to the dollar, 23.56 to the pound, 19.75 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $70.96 a barrel.
In the traffic, there's an accident scene in Edenvale. This is on the N3 northbound before Morafontein Road, causing more than an hour delay all the way from the Elands interchange. As a result, there's also bumper-to-bumper traffic coming from Boksburg, R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Giluli's interchange. And in Alberton, heading towards Joburg, traffic sluggish on the R59 northbound between Swartkopies and the Reading interchange.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with isolated showers expected today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 24 and 26 degrees. That developing story this hour, there's been a shooting at the Dorenfontein taxi rank downtown Johannesburg.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. 702.
We're listening to you. You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
6 minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702 and thank you for your contribution on the 702 open line this morning. Time now for our Hanging Out feature.
Hanging Out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
And today we are hanging out with ANC veteran Mavuso Msimang. I said to you earlier on that he is like one of the few last remaining voices of reason, honestly. Very rational, very measured. And I think we're really blessed to still have people like him with us who can counsel even the movement that he comes from, but who can help us also sometimes when we are caught in this crazy world, help us make sense of it. And we are hanging out with him today to get to know him better. So, Mr. Msimang, thank you so much for making time for us. Or should I say Dr. Msimang?
No, Mr. Works very well.
How are you?
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very good.
Yeah.
But I hope you'll be around to protect me after all the things you say.
I will be. But I'll also be around to criticize you, because you know I do.
You're most welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making time. I really appreciate it. I want to start off with a light question that I've been asking listeners this morning, because today is International Day of Happiness, and I've been asking listeners, when was the last time were you happy? Do you remember the last time you were filled with such, your heart was just smiling? Could be recently, could be a long time ago.
Well, very recently, which was last Sunday, I was actually delighted to be with my grandchildren at my daughter's party. I mean, just not just the event, the people who came around there, people I hadn't seen in a very, very long time. And there was jubilation, there was joy, there was excitement, and we did talk a little bit about things gone by. So that was a moment of excitement.
That's so great. I always feel like grandparents love their grandchildren more than their daughters and sons love their own children. I think grandparents, you guys are really obsessed with your grandchildren. Like the love you give them, the way you spoil them is just incredible.
I love my grandchildren.
Yeah.
We never argue with them, so that's a good start.
Yeah.
And their innocence, you know, they are what they are.
Yeah.
I've got a little boy who likes to style himself after me. He's called Mavuso too, and he really thinks the world starts and ends with him. So to see him dressed up,
how old is he?
He's 5 years now.
Yeah.
He really thinks the world of himself. To see him doing that without being bashful, without being polite, it comes naturally.
I love that. I just love seeing them just become, that innocence and just them experiencing this world and making sense of it and becoming, these personalities and these characters. When you enjoy a relationship like that with your grandchildren, even with your own children, do you ever go back to how it was interrupted, especially during the apartheid years? Because as veterans, there's a lot that you had to sacrifice, spending a lot of time with your family, being away from the kids, because maybe you're in exile, because you're working with Oliver Tambo, whatever the scenario was for you. Were there moments where you were away from family a lot?
Oh, I was away from family a heck of a lot. When I left this country in 1963. I think, as I say in my little bio somewhere, I was supposed to have gone to school because the police wanted, I was in their crosshairs at Fort Hare, and I was advised to leave and complete my studies abroad. But then I get to Francistown, and every important person in the ANC is arrested, and I thought, well, who is going to fight for us? So I joined and changed. So from that time on, I think from the very time I left the country, it was clear that there will be no coming back. But we were young, and we really were focused on achieving this revolution, which, we, I think, naively thought would happen in 5 years or something like that. And so you did think about them, but really we were so focused on what we were trying to do, We didn't want to take photographs because who are you taking these pictures for? You're not allowed to do that. Not that we did. There was no correspondence with people at home. It was really a cutoff. So I do miss those times. When we came back, I met people some of whom were really kids, already having their own kids. This is 31 years later. So there is a gap which one feels, but you've got to move on.
Yeah.
That's what you have.
So you went to so many, I think it's several countries. There was a time you spent time in Moscow.
Yes.
And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, you underwent military training there on urban guerrilla warfare. What is urban guerrilla warfare? What does that even mean?
Well, guerrilla warfare is distinguished from conventional in the sense that in conventional you are either in the infantry, artillery, or those kinds of formations, and you are in large numbers. A guerrilla has to survive. You've got to be fleet of foot and move from place to place and get as much of what you want from the enemy if you can. You are taught how to urban. You are taught how to manufacture explosives, and we didn't have access to TNT, which is a ready-made explosive base. So we needed to know what chemicals, like fertilizers, like nails thrown into fertilizer, would be effective to in your operation. So and you needed to understand the topography of the place where you are.
Yeah.
Well, what are the enemy movements? What are the features of the place, and all of those things? But the real distinction is that you don't stand up and drill and march, and I still don't know how to do that now. But you just learn things that assist you in surviving, and yeah.
I feel like I'm sitting with like a James Bond here, like someone who... Do you still remember how to do those things, like how to manufacture a bomb?
Yeah,
from scratch.
If you gave me some ingredients, I would be able to do it. I wouldn't.
That's so fascinating. I mean, we see this in the movies, right? And I've never, honestly, even when I see it in the movies, and I love action movies, I always think, this is just, this is just film. There's no way that people can do that and put stuff together like that and just create a bomb. So it's so fascinating that that's something you guys can do.
It's something that ought to be used to defend yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's very risky to just play around with those things in the public and so on. It's meant to deter the enemy. It's meant to destroy the enemy. You need things like sulfuric acid to put and some device that you pour your sulfuric acid, for instance, onto this device that's explosive, which you talk about, but it must not fall onto it. Must give you enough time to run.
Yeah, let's not give people too many details for them to sit at home and make it. That's so fascinating. I find that so fascinating. What are your reflections? Tomorrow is Human Rights Day.
Yes.
And every time I have conversations with veterans, I'm just always filled with so much appreciation of the sacrifices that were made, because I just feel like there was a different kind of spirit back then, because a lot of young people felt a commitment to free this country. So they didn't put themselves first. They were not selfish enough to think, I'm okay, I'm just gonna go by. There were a lot of people who felt a commitment and a need to do something to save this country. And I wonder what your reflections are on even the rights that we enjoy, that you contributed in fighting for, so that all of us are equal in this country. I was speaking this morning to learners at St. Peter's College, and I was telling them that we need to be so appreciative of our rights. And I don't think we are. I think we've gotten to a state where we think the life we enjoy is normal. Like oh yeah, this is just normal. We don't know that people died and sacrificed a lot for us to be able to enjoy these rights we take for granted. Do you actually think there's an appreciation, especially from us young people, of what people sacrificed for us to enjoy this democracy, as imperfect as it is?
Well, it's easy to blame young people, and quite honestly, I think part of the ignorance is a consequence of our not telling the story, communicating the story, not by way of boasting, because there are certain, if they had been there, the youth of today had been us, I think they would have reacted exactly like us.
They would have gone to Moscow
to whichever place. You see,
yeah.
You see, racism was raw. It told you cannot be a Clement Manyathela in a studio that belongs to white people. You can't go to that university. You can't go to that shop. Can't go to the challenge was really more immediate, and it infuriated you that you couldn't do certain things. So I think it was easier to react to that, even as it required some courage to do that, because the risks were very high, not on you, but also family. But the challenge is different from today's challenge, where you have the freedom that we are entitled to as a human being. And so you've got to, the challenges that you face have to do with how to look after your health, how to look after, you're faced with unemployment. It's a real issue which people address themselves to. So I'm saying for them to be appreciating that they can vote, they can go to any university. Well, it's normal for them. So there's nothing much to appreciate. But if the story had been told, of course, I think there would be a better understanding.
More. Yeah. And how do you deal with, because if you've been part of that system, you have to really be a forgiving person, and for you to live in a democracy where there are sometimes constant triggers. I don't know how you guys have dealt with it. Like, you chose, and this was, I think, a good decision to say, we believe in a non-racial society. We're not going to choose a revolution. We are choosing to sit down and have a conversation on how we build a country where black and white people will coexist equally. But when you have been treated like a second-class citizen, when you were not allowed to be on the same bus, when you were not allowed to sit on the same chair, when you were denied of opportunities that your white counterparts were given, how did you bring yourself to say, yeah, sure, it happens, but we're here now and we move on?
Well, the truth is that we did not choose to just negotiate and talk to these guys. When the ANC was banned in 1960, there was no alternative. It was either going to die or continue to exist in some other form. And the other form was illegally underground and taking up arms and fighting. So it wasn't easy for a South African group wanting to overthrow the government through the force of arms, because apartheid had also made absolutely certain that black people were not in the army. So that's why in the end so many people had to go to exile to learn how to fight and so on. But what defeated this government, the apartheid government, was a combination of a lot of pressure eventually internationally. It was the action that was taken by the people who were in South Africa. There came a time, UDF, and those organizations started refusing to obey the government. They were defiant, and you had these hippos in all townships that were considered. So the decision to talk is forced by the fact that the government was in crisis because of the armed resistance, because of the internal resistance, absolutely uncontainable, but also the international pressure which boycotted these rugby things of their sports, cultural boycotts, economic boycotts. they always had the advantage of being favored by the Western governments. That did keep them going for quite some time. But there came a time when they had to accept that the crisis is such that they cannot continue. At that point, then CODESA and those talks came into existence.
How did you forgive, though, as an individual? Because there's a position that the movement can take or the government, but as a person who experienced apartheid, as a person who experienced that discrimination on the basis of your color, how did you bring yourself to actually just forgive and say, hey, we were treated bad, but it's okay, we're here now, and we move on?
Because you don't want to go to the level of these people, down there in the basement. You were fighting for human values. The Freedom Charter spelled this thing out 1955, long before 1994, that the South Africa that we desire is one which recognizes all human beings as equal with the same rights and so on. So I don't know. We had white people, not many, among our ranks. So one got to understand that this thing is about exploitation. It is racism, but you want to put in its place something that is humane, and you can't be sidetracked by racists and their racism. You see, a reverse racism would pull us back, actually. I agree with empowerment. Absolutely, you have to, when you keep people out of, the orbit of development and politics for three centuries, you've got to give them the opportunity to come up. And so affirmative action or empowerment was essential. I think it still is today. The problem has been the way it has been implemented by and large. So I don't see a white person until they start acting stupidly, and they do act very stupidly, unfortunately.
You say human.
Yeah. But now, with all these things that are taking place, Trump telling people that people who own so much of South African land, when there are so few, that they are being persecuted by laws that are created, that irritates.
Where do you think that takes us? Because it is... What is painful is that, in fact, what is also good, I think, for me is there are certain people who are now showing their true colors. So now we can really see that not every single person in this country is committed to the ideals of this democracy and of this constitution. That's why they were marching in Pretoria to thank Trump, and they were waving the old apartheid flag. They were saying, make South Africa great again, and to them that means back there they've got nostalgia about the apartheid days when they were superior and black people were inferior. Where do you think that places us? Because sure, I mean, you can criticize Donald Trump as much as you want, but he has done something that has really divided us along racial lines. So what do we do, and how do we even respond to something like that as a society?
This is really a challenge to black people, I'll say that explicitly, and also to people who appreciate democracy and human rights. But black people remain, 30 years on, the underdog in all spheres of development, except politics. I think it's this action of these racists, AfriForum and others, should really be rebutted very strongly. We should be uniting now. It's a pity that my organization kind of got tainted by certain things. This would be the time when we need to move with determination and make sure that people get the economic rights that they've been denied. Just forget the nonsense or defy the nonsense and make sure that those expropriation bills are implemented because they're sound and they should happen. The anger of the people is that it hasn't happened. I don't know how much of... I've seen also white people saying, these guys, don't represent their
True,
feelings.
yeah.
We welcome that, but we should act with resolve to correct the imbalances of centuries that we still haven't been able to address.
When we try to do that, Donald Trump responds, for instance, in the US, and I'm interested in how you think government can approach the scenario like that, because I don't know how you reason with someone like that. I really don't, who makes decisions based on disinformation and fake news, who just announces things on Twitter. He is the president of the US. He was democratically elected. He's taking decisions that have an impact, yes, on us and possibly on our government and our businesses. If AGOA is taken away, for instance, he's now expelled the ambassador, our ambassador to the US. What do you think is the right way to respond? Because even when you sit down with him, what are you negotiating? Because he's going to say to you, withdraw the ICJ case. He doesn't respect sovereignty. So what do you do? Do you even sit down and talk to someone like that? And if you don't, there are also consequences to that.
Well, we should have foreseen this, to be honest with you. Talking about AGOA, with its special concessions for goods and services from South Africa, and started looking at alternatives. There are other markets in the world which would consume these things that we take to the Americans. It takes planning, of course, and in the short term, I don't want to lie, we will feel these things, the consequences, if they've been giving money for HIV-infected people. But we dare not compromise on issues of principle. How, when you see every day, you don't need to be told by a propagandist what happens in Palestine. I really don't want to jump into that. If they say they are angry because South Africa took them to the ICJ, we should be mobilizing more people to back us up, because that's the right thing to do. You're not going to appease the beast. You never will be able to do that. Milton talks about being a prince in hell than a servant, in some heaven that you don't understand.
Do you think because now we have to send envoys there. We have to negotiate with them. Some people are arguing, don't even do that, because you are negotiating with people who are so hostile that they're not interested. There's nothing you're ever going to say that's going to change President Donald Trump's mind, or his advisors, or his senior officials. So what do we do?
We should not act, they are acting like this. We should not respond impulsively. I think it is important to send a delegation, apologize for nothing wrong, for no wrong that you have not committed. I think it's important in the short term that you, and for a long time too, that you use diplomacy to make sure that these things work, as long as you do not sacrifice your principles. If they say, we are going to be friends with you if you withdraw your this, that, and the other, and the nonsense they are talking about expropriating white people's land, I think they need to be told that that's nonsense. But we do need America, let's face it, definitely in the short term. But I think we should, independence, neutrality, what is it called, non-alignment, actually means you can't be a servant to the United States and take their dictates simply because they give you AGOA and other things. No, we are putting ourselves into a trap that we never should be going into.
Yeah, I mean, there are things we disagree with the U.S. Their foreign policy, they have taken foreign policy decisions that were devastating. And yet we don't go, oh, we're not talking to these guys. You respect that they're a sovereign country, they take decisions. They should offer us the same courtesy.
I wonder, sometimes they say the Constitution, South African, is one of the best in the world. When things that are being done by Trump seem to go, they're not unchallenged, but with such ease in America, I wonder whether it is the weakness, deficiencies in the American Constitution that allows a person to actually break the law at will. But again, there has been a time when justices who are elected, chosen politically, when they argued that a sitting president cannot be incriminated. That's what they said to excuse the Trump nonsense the first time around. Well, so right now he will do things with impunity because they have actually said any mistake that you make or any wrong you commit as a president is not punishable by law.
Yeah.
What kind of constitution is that? What kind of Supreme Court is chosen by politicians? If it's Democrats, it's a certain kind of justice. If it's Republicans, it's another set of people who will look at it differently. I think even though we have problems with our justice system, it's much better, it's much firmer. I don't think Trump would have been able to do what he's doing in America, in South Africa.
Absolutely. That takes us to 10:32. Time for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. I'll come back with your WhatsApps on 0727021702. If you want to talk to Mr. Mavuso Msimang or you've got a question for him, send them through on WhatsApp or call us on 011-883-0702. We'll also play some of his favorite music as well in this hour. Sfiso, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. 4 people have been shot and killed at the Dorenfontein taxi rank downtown Johannesburg. Police say a group of armed men opened fire and shot 7 people this morning. The police's Demakatso Nevuuli says 3 others have been injured and taken to hospital. The attempted murder trial against controversial businessman Edwin Sodi is expected to start this morning. Sodi is accused of trying to murder his estranged wife in their Bryanston home in 2022. He was released on 150,000 rand bail. And Hungary has passed a law banning pride marches held by the LGBTQ plus community, sparking outrage in and out of the country. Parliament voted for the measures just a day after the bill was submitted on Monday in a process fast-tracked by the ruling right-wing Fidesz party under Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Orban has praised the legislation, which bans the events on alleged grounds it is harmful to children. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this hour in Vlakfontein, heading towards the Vereeniging area, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the N1 southbound between the N12 and the R558. Also, in the Alberton area, traveling towards the Joburg side, there's slow-moving traffic. the R59 northbound between Swartkoppies and the Reading interchange. If you're traveling towards the Joburg CBD, traffic is a bit slow. This is in the Boysens area, M1 North, between Boysens and the Crown interchange. Also leaving the Joburg CBD, expect some delays on the M2 westbound between the Crown interchange and Main Reef Road. In Edenvale, there's a bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is leaving Bedford View, heading towards Midrand. N3 northbound between Van Buren and Modderfontein Road due to an earlier accident. And finally in Tembisa, expect some delays. This is on the R21 northbound between the R25 Papsfontein off-ramp and Olifantsfontein Road. I'll have your next Eyewitness News traffic update just after 11.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
It's really started to get me to think, who is Leila Khalid? I'm now interested as to how do we decide how our streets are named. But out of all of the different revolutionaries that are there in the world that have been associated with issues that we are perhaps aligned with, why Leila Khalid? Why not Semnunjom? Why not Samora Machel? How many decisions are made on behalf of us in our name that may have ramifications that we are not aware of?
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
J.M. Coetzee's novel Life and Times of Michael K. arrives on stage at the Market Theatre. Experience this breathtaking production with a cast that includes Sandra Prinsloo, Andrew Buckland, and Fanny Swayisa, alongside the Tony Award-winning Handspring Puppet Company. The riveting adaptation by Lara Food follows the haunting story of a simple man who journeys through a war-torn time to find closure. This is an unmissable theatre event. Tickets are available on web tickets or visit markettheatre.co.za for more information.
Simply Asia could be sending you and 3 friends to Thailand. Chopsticks, our tiger, is already on the prowl. And he can't wait to tag along. He's got his pool noodle ready for Songkran. Hurry, you don't want to lose your seat on that plane? Join the fun at Simply Asia by spending just 200 Rand in-store on our app or via delivery. Chopsticks might just swipe your ticket. So don't wait. T's and C's apply, ending May 31st.
Do not be fooled. Smoking kills. Across the globe, more than 8 million people die of tobacco-related diseases every year. During the broadcast of this radio advert, which is only 60 seconds, 16 people would have died from tobacco. Quit smoking and vaping. If you cannot resist this lethal habit, please protect non-smokers and children. Do not smoke or vape in public places or near children. Inhaling any tobacco product, whether through smoking or vaping, can cause cancer, birth defects, heart, lung, and oral diseases. All tobacco and related products are harmful to your health. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Health.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Is it still possible to get a cut tomorrow, or is that off the table?
It's not completely off the cards. It's not impossible, but I think it's more unlikely than likely. And I think you mentioned a few of the important points there. There's a lot of uncertainty with regards to tariffs. We're uncertain how financial markets are going to respond to all of that.
George Glenos, Head of Research at ETM Analytics.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. That's how we're invested in your story. Your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
22 minutes before 11 o'clock on our Hanging Out feature this morning, we've got Mr. Mavuso Msimang, an ANC veteran, and I see some of your questions that have come through. I'll get to them in a moment. Your calls as well on 011-883-0702. But before I get there, let's play one of his favorite songs by Liz Wright. Tell me more about the song, Mr. Mavuso. Seems I'm Never Tired of Loving You. Why is this one of your favorite songs?
Well, the melody is just great. And in fact, I was hoping to find one where she's with Gregory Peck. They sing a similar song. I love it for not for sentimental reason, but for the melody. And it's just one of those things that remind me of how music used to be in the olden days before the new one came into existence.
Are you a musical person? You sound like you can sing.
In exile, when we were waiting to come back, we lived, of course, for years eventually. I was part of a group that sang. We had formations, and in the evenings in the camp, we would then have little concerts. And I have more than a radio voice. Huh?
Yeah, you do. That's fascinating. All right, here's Liz Wright. Seems I'm Never Tired of Loving You.
And it seems I'm never tired, never tired of loving you, loving you. Hey. Never was a feeling stronger. See, I'm aching for the sweet things that you do. Oh, and it seems I'm never tired, never tired of loving you. Should the mountain crumble to ashes, and if the rain ceases to fall, and if the river stop their flowing, you will still be mine. And if the clouds
Amy, good morning, man, to you and Mr. Msimang there. Flores here from the Western Cape. I would just like to know whether he are happy with his decision to return to the ANC, and has there been any improvement, especially things that he did not agree with? Does he think that there has been work done ever since his return? Have a good job. Bye-bye.
Hi, Clement. Will you please ask our veteran there, what does he make regarding the renewal agenda of the African National Congress? Are they applying it correctly? Are they benefiting from it, or is ANC benefiting from it? Because from where I am seated, we have suggestion on how this can be carried out to the benefit of African National Congress, but we don't know where to go. Sija in Pretoria.
Hi, Clement. This is Bongani in Tembisa here. Can you ask the gentleman there, what is the biggest difficulty are they finding in introducing a new currency like BRICS currency to tackle the US, or just an African currency that all African countries they can unite in a single banner to fight against these sanctions that the West are bringing in African countries and the Middle East countries, that we can fight back? What is the biggest difficulty are they finding to introduce a new currency that we can fight against the US dollar, the pound, and the euro? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for those questions. So let's start with the first question about, are you happy? You had resigned from the ANC and then you came back. Are you happy with that decision of coming back?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's so interesting how people reacted to my resignation, about which very, very excited. I think our ANC has troubled people quite a bit. And then quite a few of them, or very many of them, were very disappointed that I went back.
Yeah.
Give me the opportunity to explain again.
Yeah.
I had actually hoped that the letter that I wrote, which is now very public, would be attended to by the Secretary General, who would say, please come, let's have a discussion. What is this all about? But unfortunately, before I knew what was going on, it had been leaked to the media.
Who leaked it?
It would be from his office. I don't know who there. I don't think it's he himself. Yeah. So then I had to react in a very different way. But yeah, now leaving the ANC, the veterans actually came on very strongly to me. I respect the group of veterans that are in the league right now. And they said, guys, you're popular now. You know, everybody's talking about you. You're trending and so on. But do you think you'll be more effective in fighting against the corruption that the Veterans League platform gives you? Come on, it's almost like a desertion. So it's not as if I was asked by the president or anybody senior there. It's the veterans who did say, listen, guys, let's come back. The struggle continues. There is a little gap with your little blank on this platform. The fight is here.
Did the president not call you, though?
No, he didn't call me. Yeah.
Okay.
No, he didn't
Are
call
you
me.
happy?
He welcomed my coming back, but he
Yeah.
didn't call me.
Are you happy, though, since you've come back?
No, well, then there are a few things. I mean, the commitment that was made by the SG was to the whole public. We were saying, please, there are people who appeared before the Zondo Commission and other commissions, and they had been asked to go to the Integrity Commission of the ANC, and they didn't do that. And we said, why do you waste a crisis? Why don't you then call them to a disciplinary committee and say, you defied a decision of the National Executive Committee to come and explain why you are in the Zondo Commission. And we got the SG to actually announce to the public, as I was coming back, he said no one who was implicated and has not appeared before the TC would be allowed to be on the list. So we were saying just a gesture of seriousness about your distaste for corruption would be to say, until people who have been accused of corruption by the commissions should not be on the list until their names have been cleared. It's a straightforward thing. Well, unfortunately, am I happy? There are people who still stayed behind. Quite a few had left.
Yeah. Are you happy with the renewal agenda of the ANC?
The renewal agenda of the ANC is experiencing a lot of difficulties because there are things that could be done. I mean, if you ask me, what's the renewal about? You should be able to say the renewal will require step number 1, remove all the crazy people who are doing these things. Number 2, do this and that. You can't renew an organization with some of the people you know need to be renewed out of the organization, so to say. So, but you know, the Veterans League and other parts of the organization, you'd be amazed at the amount of time and some of their own resources, which are limited, they spend to get the organization to ensure that this renewal has meaning. It hasn't really had any traction up to date. That's the short answer.
And given that it hasn't had much traction, do you think this ANC is even capable of coming back? Because it's gotten a bruising from the last elections, and one would argue if that traction is as slow as you describe it, there's no way it's going to get back on its feet anytime soon.
Well, I'm likely to offend people here. I think it's going to be very difficult unless we really hasten with the renewal things. I was interested to hear that some suggestions, I guess from the branch of one of your callers, showing or suggesting how this should be done. I get the impression that that's not being taken up. It would be interesting what he wanted done and what people are not doing. But I might offend here. I really hope the ANC renews itself, gets rid of the people who are corrupt. Because honestly, on the opposition side, as far as the other parties are concerned, I don't see any party, respectfully, that has the ability to run this country. We're not running it well, but I don't see how anybody else at the present moment would do it better.
Sipho, you calling us from MDN in Soweto. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How's this?
Shop, man. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Mavuso.
Yibo.
So I've got just a simple question. It dates back before the ANC got into power. Was the ANC ready to govern, say? Was the ANC ready to govern this country? Did it have the right economic policies to run this country? Because why I'm asking those questions today, ANC has got, they had economic policies before, your RDP, your PA, your ASGISA, now we have the MDP. But after 30 years, our people are still living in squalor. Majority of our people, our children today are still dying from the flood. People can't even go to school because there are no bridges, no proper schooling, people dying in pit latrines and stuff like that. So, was the ANC ready to govern, say? That's my question. Thanks, Clement.
Thank you so much, Sipho. I do remember there was a document the ANC presented titled Ready to Govern.
Yes. In terms of the broader parameters that would define an ability, a readiness to govern, I think that was in place. The failure has been in executing this. CODESA, which is now being, I think the listeners, your listeners understand CODESA. The agreements that were made there were actually good enough to see us not only get political freedom, but eventually the economic improvement and the land and all of that. It is subsequent administrations, but in particular, when we just decided to bring into the government people who had no competence, but not just no competence, but a lot who were very corrupt. Before 1994, you joined the ANC because, and it was risky to do that because you had an objective. After 1994, you're in government. Coming to the ANC, I think we needed to be stricter in our auditing of membership and so on. But I'm not blaming it on people who came afterwards. Yeah. I am saying, yes, I agree, I will not defend anything. It's shameful that 30 years on, the situation of the economic situation of our people is what it is. It's never done overnight. In no country has it happened like that, but we could and should have done better than that.
So maybe the organization itself was ready to govern, but the people that it's put up were not so ready.
Yes, the governance, I think it's very important. You won't be liberated. Services are not delivered by things that are written down. They're delivered by people. And the people who were elected, chosen, by and large, or shall I say, many of them just should not have been in positions in which they were placed. That's why we are where we are now.
Yeah. Tafara says, Clement, what a great man in Dr. Msimang. You're hosting there, Clement. Thank you to Mr. Fixit, sir, for your humility and contribution in and out of government. I wish you'd served in much higher capacities, and I can only wish there are more patriots in our world that will, in our country, that will serve this country well. That's a message from Tafara Farai. Why do they call you Mr. Fixit?
Well, I should accept that with humility because I always worked with many people. But I was the CEO of a number of state organizations, SA Tourism, National Parks, and so on. My model, my idea was to fix what was not working and move on to something else. We had challenges of transformation mostly, and so we had to put in place a structure that had competence, that had budgets and implemented them. And to a very large extent, most of these things did succeed.
Yeah.
Even Home Affairs, I want
mean,
to
you were
say.
DG there, and there was a lot of transformation.
We got a report from Princeton University that said the changes that had been made there were irreversible. I think they didn't quite know.
Yeah. Look at where we are now. Some people are still trying to fix that. Here's some WhatsApp voice notes.
Morning. Thanks, Clement, for bringing the stalwart. I'm so impressed to hear from him, and he's one of the leaders that resonate with my principles as a person that is principled, let alone the love for the grandchildren. May he live forever for us and guide the ANC and the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another person wants to know, what do you do for fun?
I wish the challenges that are facing the country could be described as fun. I do spend a fair bit of time with colleagues. I'm avid follower, lover of conservation. I worked for national parks at a certain time, and that's one institution that just helped me understand the relationship of men, women, of humanity with nature. The things that are in this country brought by people who thought they were civilized turn out to be not so good. Alien species of trees, which in a country that has not enough water. Ignorance of the relationship between plants and human beings and all of that. We go to pharmacies and get medicines there. Our people always had drugs and herbs, serious herbs to heal their own. I had boils, if you can give me a chance, when I was a teenager. I used to have boils on my thing. And believe you me, somebody showed a datura leaf, joy in Zulu. And they took that, heated it, put it on where the boil was, and it was sucked completely out of existence forever. And as you know, usually a boil, they deal with it with modern medicines here, and it shoots up somewhere else, usually even in awkward places. But that was the end. But that was a natural thing. It's a weed, and somebody knew that it's used like that. So I really would like us to get closer to nature and understand it.
You are still a Pirates fan?
Yes, no, never mind the difficulties. Yes, I am.
I mean, difficulties. Have you heard of Kaiser Chiefs? That's difficulties. So we are much better, at a much better place.
No, I do agree. You don't abandon, just like the ANC.
Except you did for a few hours and came back.
I learned my lessons.
Mr. Msimang, thank you so much for coming through. This was great. I really appreciate you coming through, and we really appreciate your contribution in fighting for this democracy that we enjoy today. We didn't have to make a choice between spending time with our families or going on into exile. We were born and we found things that almost work, and we were given opportunities you guys never had. So your contribution is appreciated.
Thank you very much for your kind words, but I would also like to thank the callers. They've had some very nice things. I'll strive to live up to their rating of me, but it's kind. Thanks for the opportunity. And right on to 702 listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a minute before 11.
Go big on style with the perfect everyday companion from Vodacom, Mzansi's fastest 5G network. Get the new Samsung Galaxy A36 128 gig on a 1.4 gig Red Core plan for only 379 Rand per month over 36 months. Enhance your deal when you add 49 Rand extra per month and get the Samsung Galaxy Tab A9. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
Burst into a festival of high-flying fun with Hollywood Bets and JetX prize drops. Stand a chance to win a share of a phenomenal 500,000 Rand in prizes when you trigger the thrilling Spin the Wheel feature. Simply bet 10 Rand or more per flight. Strap in and experience out-of-this-world excitement and entertainment. Pilot your dreams and fly headfirst through the clouds into fantastic fortunes. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bets supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
When you need a bucky for business, you want tough and reliable and up
proper warranty. Kia's K2 Bucky comes with an unlimited kilometer 5-year warranty. So you get to drive 900,082,407,020. Let's just say you can drive for a gazillion kilometers. With up to 40 grand cash back, your business can go further with a Kia Bucky.
Kia, movement that inspires.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I am Sfiso Zulu. 4 people have been shot and killed at the Doornfontein taxi rank in Jeppestown. Police say a group of armed men opened fire and shot 7 people this morning. 3 other victims have been injured and taken to hospital, including a university student. The police's Dimakatso Nevubulwi says the motive for the shooting is not yet clear.
A group of armed men came to a taxi rank in Doornfontein in GB Police Precinct and started shooting randomly at people. 4 people were declared dead on the scene, while 3 were taken to a hospital with injuries.
The trial against MK Party Member of Parliament Duduzile Zuma Sambutla has been postponed to the 14th of August. She appeared briefly in the Durban High Court this morning in connection with the 2021 July unrest. She is charged with incitement to commit terrorism and 2 counts of incitement to commit public violence linked to the riots. Some social grant beneficiaries have voiced their frustrations about replacing their SASSA Gold cards with new ones from Postbank. Today is the deadline for the card swap, meaning from tomorrow, beneficiaries will not be able to use their old cards to buy or withdraw money inside stores. But the Postbank says it will continue with the card swap until the end of June this year. Ntutuzela Nene has more.
More than 200 social grant beneficiaries have started to form a snaking queue outside one of the selected retail stores in Easter River. 70-year-old Eric Croy has told Eyewitness News that he's not happy queuing for the second day in a row without any help.
Been queuing ever since 5:45 today, and yesterday 5:45 yesterday, and I was about 50th in a row, and they closed the doors at 4 o'clock. It's absolutely nonsense.
The Postbank has confirmed migrating more than 1 million beneficiaries, with another 1 million still needing to switch. Ntutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News in Easter River.
The attempted murder trial against controversial businessman Edwin Sodi is expected to start today. Sodi is accused of trying to murder his estranged wife in their Bryanston home in 2022. He was released on 150,000 rand bail. Khomoso Modise has more.
Apart from being released on R500,000 rand bail for his corruption case in the Free State, where he stands accused alongside former ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule, Edwin Sodi is also out on bail for a domestic violence matter. Sodi faces charges of attempted murder, assault to cause grievous bodily harm, and pointing a firearm. It's alleged he attacked his estranged wife in Tateng Larata and a friend in their Bryanston home. As the state opens its case today, its first witness is expected to take the stand. Khomoso Modise, Eyewitness News.
And China has defended its decision to execute 4 Canadians following backlash from Canada. The 4 were executed on drug smuggling charges earlier this year amid lingering diplomatic tensions between the 2 nations. Canada says it condemns the use of China's death penalty, which is irreversible and inconsistent with the basic human dignity. China's embassy in Canada says it is a rule of the nation's law and that anyone convicted of breaking laws must be held accountable. Gold is trading at $3,052.19 an ounce. The rand is at 18.12 to the dollar, 23.56 to the pound, 19.75 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $70.96 a barrel.
Leaving the Joburg CBD in the Selby area, slow-moving traffic. This is on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Also in the Alberton area, bumper-to-bumper traffic, R59 northbound between Swartkopies and the Reading Interchange.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with isolated showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 24 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: 4 people have been shot and killed at a taxi rank in Jeppestown.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
us what we need to know.
702 Listens
You're with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Six minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumela, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. Time for the Thursday Dialogue.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
So, on the Thursday Dialogue today, we are asking about this ban on cannabis and hemp in food products and whether that is justified. And I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. You may be aware now that government has been criticized for its ban on cannabis and hemp products in food products. Right? The National Department of Health gazetted a notice, I think on the 7th of March, banning the import, manufacture and sale of any foods containing cannabis and cannabis products. And what the ban really applies to is any part of the plant or component of cannabis, including the sativa, indica, you name it, the hemp seed oil, or even the powder derivatives from the various species or subspecies. The department said any person who sells, imports, or manufactures foods containing these prohibited substances will be guilty of an offense and may be liable to a fine or imprisonment upon conviction. Now, of course, the department says we are doing this because it's for consumer safety, right? Because the department has a responsibility to protect you as a consumer from food or products that may cause harm to you. But then the way that this has been done has been criticized. Yes, it's important to appreciate that the risk of consuming foods that contain high THC or CBD are quite significant for children, and government has a responsibility to intervene. But then there's also a way to do it without affecting the stakeholders, especially because the president himself has spoken about the importance of the cannabis industry and exploiting the opportunities that exist. This could be a multi-billion rand industry. So there's an opportunity here to, yes, bring about regulations that protect consumers without stifling and killing small businesses. So we've invited the various stakeholders to just give us their views about this matter, how it's handled and how it could be handled better, where there's a balance between protecting consumers and also allowing this industry to thrive and protecting small businesses that operate within this sector. You can share your thoughts with us on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Penny Campbell is the director for the Food Control Unit at the National Department of Health, joining us via Zoom. Penny, thank you so much for making time. Good morning. Hi, Penny. Okay, we'll come back to Penny in a moment. Something might be wrong there with the Zoom. We also have Dr. Carl Leroux, who is the DA Deputy Spokesperson on Health, joining us as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Leroux, for making time. Can you hear us?
I can. Thank you very much for having me.
And we've got Nati Ferreira, who is a cannabis farmer, also joining this conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Nati. Good morning.
Thank you. It's Clement, eh? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
While we establish that line with Penny Campbell, who represents the Department of Health, let me just start with you, Dr. Leroux. Why are you against this specific ban by the Department of Health. Are you against how it's a blanket approach and you prefer perhaps the regulations, or do you think even that would stifle the industry?
Thank you, Clement. Yes, I think that it is the blanket ban that concerns us, and the suddenness of this ban, and also the approach seems to have not included many other. It hasn't really seems to have. There seems to have been very little consultation happening around it. We are also concerned of the impacts, the economic impact that this blanket ban will have on quite a thriving market that's developed over the last 5 or 6 years. And so I think that we all know that our economy is under strain. We need to be sensible about how we do these things, because I think the other thing to say is that there's a legitimate sort of group of companies, small, medium enterprises who've sort of walked into this new market and are providing safe and good products. And they and now if we ban it completely, the risk is again that we force things underground. We allow illegal manufacturers to take over. With that, we don't have tax money that comes from it. So I think that the big concern for us is that we understand the concerns, especially around THC, which is the active ingredient in cannabis, that any products with THC have a psychoactive element, and those are at risk for adults and children that use it. But there are also the hemp seed oils. There are the CBD oils that are basically are not psychoactive, and to provide a whole ban seems to be counterproductive and might be harmful to our economy, harmful to these small businesses, and seems to be to us to be overreach.
Yeah, Nati, you have been calling for regulations for some time now. This market has remained largely unregulated and undefined, and I suspect that leaves you as entrepreneurs, even consumers in a gray area. What is your position then on this ban, and what do you think the consequences are?
I think as an industry, and a lot of us have been trying to engage with government for a long time. I've become actively involved on an organization level in 2017, and you always had that sense of perpetual imminence, but we did at some stage feel like we are being heard. And then through the years, up to the Pakisa of about 18 months ago, where we literally spent an entire week at our own cost. We were away from our businesses, sitting down with government, discussing these issues. We thought that now we've got open channels with government and they are listening to us. To then come with this kind of blanket ban without any consultation with industry, throwing a lot of spanners in a lot of works. People were very excited about the food industry. There's advanced processing plans on the table. There's lots of investment proposals on the table. There's overseas investors just busy making plans to invest in South Africa in the food space. We don't even have to talk about the rest of the industry that's developed. And government is coming and they're ignoring all the attempts at self-regulation within the industry. They're ignoring the 90%, 95% of good players in this industry that try to self-regulate, and they focus on the 5% rogue players and now give us a blanket ban on anything cannabis related. Yeah, it's just not acceptable.
And Penny, from your side as government, what is behind this decision to ban the foodstuff containing cannabis and hemp products? And how do you respond to what Nati and Dr. Leroux are raising as to say, why not regulations? Why a blanket ban? Because also, if you think about it, this kind of ban ends up encouraging the black market.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to the listeners. I have not had much of the discussion because I was having a problem joining on the Zoom link. So I'm joining you from my phone. So just to clarify, we have not banned any of the products. We have banned we have prohibited them being called foodstuffs. Purely because the Medicines Act has indicated that if these products fall outside of the Schedule 0, where they've been sitting for quite a while, then they would need to be approved by the Department of Health under the Foodstuffs Act.
Mm.
So that process must still unfold, and so therefore it's a challenge to indicate that products that have been to date being sold in health shops as health supplements to then automatically fall into being called a foodstuff.
Okay.
So we're not stopping them from selling them in a health shop where SAHPRA has okayed it to happen. We are only indicating that for you to be a foodstuff, you need to comply with the rules of the Foodstuffs Act.
And what would complying mean?
So, for example, hemp seed must be free from THC and CBD to then be processed into a food product. So for that to happen, you need to dehull the hemp seed, and you need to make sure that your extraction process or cold pressing process does not bring in any contaminant from the husk of the seed, which is where there's likely to be THC.
Yeah.
Some hemp plants still have some CBD in them, and CBD is a scheduled substance under the Medicines Act.
Mm. What's the involvement of SAHPRA here? Because my understanding is that it does not deal with the private or recreational use of cannabis. So I'm not clear on how SAHPRA would regulate food items containing cannabis, which are regulated through a different act, the Foodstuffs, Cosmetics and Disinfectants Act. So
No.
what? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So okay, SAHPRA historically had under the Medicines Act Schedule 7 cannabis.
Yeah.
Then it was descheduled to 6 and 4. The THC being 6, Schedule 6, and the CBD being Schedule 4. And then they made exemptions under the CBD schedule to make a complementary medicine in a dosage form, subject to certain levels, a Schedule 0, which means it can be sold in an open shop. And they then have a B, which says anything for ingestion containing 75 ppm CBD. So if your product has CBD in it, it therefore implies that it can't be a foodstuff. The preamble also to Schedule 0 indicates that there must be approval from the Department of Health. So that's the link to SAHPRA.
Mm. So as we speak right now, there are some shops that are selling those foodstuffs, whether it's edible sweets, whether it's, some whatever edibles that they've produced that have got those elements you speak of. So what is the implication on those businesses of people who have been operating like that?
It's not for me to comment on that because those are edibles. But as I've heard from the lawyers out there, they've indicated that they've always been illegal, purely because they have the THC content, and hence they have warning on it: do not eat, do not only available for over 18s, etc.
Yeah.
So that would be in the remit of SAHPRA and the Drugs Act.
Mm-hmm.
So hence, we are not even interfering in that space.
Okay. Dr. Leroux, do you understand where the health department is coming from? Having listened to what Penny Campbell is saying here about why they've decided to go this route, because I know one of the things you've been concerned about is that this ban undermines efforts towards economic growth and job creation in the cannabis and hemp sector. And you heard what the president said during the State of the Nation address. He had a special mention of the cannabis and hemp industry. He appreciates how it could ultimately benefit this country and how there are so many opportunities to exploit. And a ban like this, whether you agree or not, may just speak contrary to that.
Thank you. Yes, I think, it feels like we are dealing with an issue, and I think there are some legitimate issues raised by Dr. Campbell around the psychoactive ingredients. But I think that our concern is that we're using a bazooka to hit a fly, and I think that it does seem like the collateral damage of these regulations are going to be significant. And I think it sort of shows a tendency towards over-regulation that we see kind of coming through too much. The hemp seed and the hemp oils are very, very seldom do they have any psychoactive ingredients. And so I think that we are now kind of putting a whole sector of our economy under uncertainty, and we know that economies and businesses need certainty to be able to provide work and to be able to provide stable employment for people. So I think that this, we totally understand and recognize that edibles with active THC in it, they have a psychoactive element and are significant, but it seems like these regulations do not actually talk to that at all. They talk to the foodstuffs, and I think that we need to go back to the industry, go back to people who are active in this, and see how one can make a compromise, because I think we are overreaching and harming businesses, and then I think is just a pity particularly in our economic context, particularly because the harms that are there are so minor, particularly on the hemp side of things. Even the CBD. I hear the argument about the CBD oils that are seen as a medical Schedule 4 drug, and that there have been ways that those can be made up in a way that it's Schedule 0 over the counter. But again, I think that there needs to be a distinction between hemp seed and hemp flower and hemp seed oils. CBD, which is cannabidiol, which is I might have pronounced it incorrectly, which has some people believe has got some medical advantages, and usually has very few psychoactive elements. And then there's THC, which is the potent psychoactive part of it, and those must all be treated differently.
Okay, but you do agree that an unregulated cannabis food market does pose a food safety risk. So in other words, the government says, well, we want to try and protect consumers here, and yes, we will work towards those regulation as part of protecting the consumers. When you say this is over-regulation, how would you suggest that government then regulates the space to protect consumers, so that you are not dealing here with a market where there's just cannabis products and people just don't know what they're consuming?
I speak not as an expert in cannabis, but my understanding of cannabis is that there's the hemp, there's a CBD, and there's a THC. And I would say anything with THC in it needs to be carefully monitored and watched, and it has to be clear to the public that anything with THC in it has to be very clearly marked. I think that the hemp side of things is predominantly harmless. The CBD is sort of in the middle. And so I'd say that, we of course, the Department of Health's role and job is to protect the public, and that is a very important role. And we support any regulations that are there for safety. We just don't think that on the one side of the spectrum, on the hemp side of the spectrum, that those regulations are necessary, because the harms in that side of the spectrum are very small. Of course, when you just add the cannabis plant into edibles, that has all the elements of it. So of course, then you will have THC in it, and that needs to be carefully regulated and monitored. But on the hemp side of things, I think that it seems we just think it's a little bit of overkill from that perspective, and we think we do need to hear the perspective of the industry on this, so that they can explain to us how things are happening and how they are trying to make sure that these products are safe to the public.
Yeah. Okay. Let me bring in Nate here. Nate, can you just help our listeners understand how big this cannabis food market is, and what kind of products does it actually offer? What are we talking about here?
I think On the hemp side, we've had companies like Real Food Factory have had a stand in first Spar and now in some of our bigger chain stores across the country, selling hemp food products. Hemp seed pesto is famous. He's a well-known player in the hemp space. We've had it on our shelves for at least 12 years. I mean, these are well-known foods. We've done loads of research, even as hemp, as a fresh produce, as a salad additive, with amazing results. I mean, it's really, really good, even if as a spinach substitute, where there's no psychoactivity at play. On the market, I mean, if you look at the vegan bodybuilding space, hemp protein is the preferred hemp protein in that entire space. And whenever you need vegan protein, people prefer this far above pea protein. So the South African market was in this development space. So where we've got all these imported products, people copying it locally, people licensing technology in to manufacture locally. We had farmers ready to produce into that market. Yeah, so that is just, but it is potentially, I mean, I'm not going to throw billions and millions around, because whether they're rands or dollars, they don't even matter, because this thing can be really huge. And we're not talking just about a substitution industry. We're talking about really encouraging.
Yeah.
The superfood industry alone is $80 billion currently, and they expect that to boom to trillions of dollars. And hemp is a perfect superfood fitting into that. Clement, if I can just quickly add that we just need some clarity from Ms. Campbell here. It's the third time now that we've basically contradict the ban. Because, I mean, I've got the Gazette open in front of me, and that is a straight-out ban. There's no talk of exemptions and regulations and requirements that must be met for him to be called a cannabis food. This is an outright ban, and it's the third time now that it's gone public, and I think we need from the minister or someone just some clarity statement on where we're at the moment. So I don't know what's happening at a high level in government, but we need some direction here, because if we listen to Ms. Campbell, it's not so bad. But if I read the Gazette, it seems quite bad.
Yeah, okay. Let me get Penny, are you able to respond to that?
Yes, and I think we need to clarify, and I like the way another lady from the industry indicated how we should look at these products. The ones that we speak of where we say they are illegal, but we are not playing in that space, is called the edibles, and that's where they have the THC, etc. placed in them. Then you have the ingestibles. So they look like food. They've been added to products that ordinarily are foods, but then you are having either hemp seed oil or hemp seed powder being added to those. Traditionally, from SAPRA's side, they've regarded those as health supplements, and they were attempting to regulate these under the Medicines Act. Then you have food, and food also has a definition. So although it's being ingested, it doesn't automatically mean it's food, because we ingest a whole lot of other things like alcohol and that, which are not necessarily foodstuffs. So in the foodstuff space, the requirement will be that the product must not have any CBD in it, any THC in it, and make no claim then, which would then be misleading and incorrectly advertising their product, because they are indicating or idealizing for children to think that those are good things. So we're creating a system where children might be inculcated with thinking that those are products that are good for you. So what has been tried to do is that you have foodstuffs, you have health supplements, which is where the hemp seed oil and the hemp seed powder and any products that are infused with those fall, and then you have edibles. So that's the distinction we are trying. What has been tried to make. But health supplements, the minister and SAPRA were taken to court by the industry to say we don't want to be regulated under the Medicines Act. So the courts agreed with them that it doesn't fall truly in the definition of medicine. But the courts didn't say you are then a foodstuff. So we have that channel in the center of it all where these products fall if they have CBD in them, and they are quite welcome to call them health supplements. But when they come into the food space and want to be called food, where we approve them, it will then be a food with no THC from that hemp product and no CBD from that hemp seed.
Okay. Let me do this, Penny. I'm going to take the latest in Eyewitness News headlines, and when we come back, Nate, you can tell me if you're satisfied with that response, if it answers your question, but also if you've got more clarity-seeking questions, please go ahead and ask Penny. I think this is also an opportunity for all of us to understand what this legislation actually mean. This ban on these products. What does it mean and what are the consequences? I'm going to take your calls as well after the headlines and your WhatsApps. It's 11:31. Bali, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. A very good morning. Police are searching for 6 suspects who shot and killed 4 people at the Enkomeni taxi rank in Johannesburg this morning. The shooting is believed to be linked to taxi violence in the area. 3 other people were caught in the crossfire and taken to hospital for treatment. The trial against MK Party Member of Parliament Duduzile Zuma Sambudla has been postponed to the 14th of August. She appeared briefly in the Durban High Court this morning in connection with the 2021 July unrest. She has been charged with incitement to commit terrorism and 2 counts of incitement to commit public violence linked to those riots. And social grant beneficiaries who are queuing to migrate their SASSA cards before the midnight deadline in Easter River in Cape Town have complained of poor service at the site. Today is the last day for grant recipients to swap from the SASSA Gold cards to the new Post Bank Black cards. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are leaving the Joburg CBD, slow-moving traffic, this is on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Also in the Alberton area heading towards Joburg. Bumper-to-bumper traffic, that's on the R59 northbound between Swartkoppies and the Reading Interchange. In the Edenvale area, traveling towards Alex, expect some delays. N3 North between Linksfield Road and Modderfontein Road. And there's also traffic lights not working in 4 ways at Witkoppen and Cedar. I'll have your next Eyewitness News traffic update just after 12.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
Mr. Langer, what you're doing is describing what happened. I'm asking you for the justification. They obviously knew how to get to head office. You'd expect that from Metro Police. But why disrupt the lives of everybody else?
We don't think that there was a disruption per se. There was just an issue of a go-slow from their side.
But there was disruption. People missed flights. People were late for work.
No, that's a debatable matter. We've got a different dimension. We'll need to do a factual inquiry in terms of what you are saying and alleging in that regard.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Joburg, get ready for some thrilling cricket action. This weekend, DP World Lions ladies take on the Fidelity Titans at the iconic DP World Wanderers Stadium. Saturday, it's the Hollywood Bats Pro 50, a battle of skill, strategy and endurance. And on Sunday, the action speeds up with the Hollywood Bats Pro 20, big hits, fast runs and non-stop excitement with a live DJ, kiddies entertainment, competitions and free DP World Lions merchandise giveaways. It's going to be a whole vibe. Plus, entry is free with tons of parking available.
Go beyond Ultra and beyond limits when you get the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra 256 gig from Vodacom, Mzansi's fastest 5G network. Get yours today on a 4.8 gig red core plan for only 1,199 Rand per month over 36 months. Enhance your deal when you add 49 Rand extra per month and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
Your voice,
Your questions.
your morning radio with Clement Manyathela.
This is 702.
24 minutes before 12 o'clock. We're going to go to your calls and WhatsApps in a moment as we continue our discussion about this ban on cannabis and hemp in food products. We've been asking whether it's justified following, of course, the decision that was taken by the National Department of Health when they gazetted this notice early this month, banning the import, manufacture, and sale of any foods containing cannabis and cannabis products. Penny has explained what this actually means. We've heard from the DA sharing their concerns. We've heard from Nati, who is in the cannabis industry as well. So we want to hear from you. What do you think? What do you think are the consequences? Maybe you are in the industry. Give us a call on 011-883-0702 or send a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. But before we continue with that chat, let's find out what's coming up on 702 afternoons between 1 and 3 p.m. Jono, good morning.
Morning, Clem. How's it going?
Good. What's popping today?
Yeah, good, man. So, I was listening yesterday to your Healing Hour, which is always very, very powerful radio when people share and phone in with their thoughts and feelings. So one of the things I took out yesterday was, some of the men who say they can't show their feelings or they're scared to show their feelings or share their feelings with their family members. And sometimes that stems from the way in which we are raised as kids, right? Because our parents had certain parenting styles and this is kind of what you think is normal or certain behaviors. So what I wanted to ask today on the show is, now that you have grown up, you've got your own family and you may have your own kids, have you broken that cycle of the way in which you were raised? So let's say you were raised in a home where your father constantly shouted or never gave you approval on things. And now that you have kids, are you like that with your kids? Or have you broken that cycle and, you're very thoughtful with your kids, you give them the encouragement, you don't shout unnecessarily, etc., etc. So I want to ask our listeners that this afternoon between 1 and 1:30. Then we're going to be chatting to a fine dining chef who's won 2 awards. These are the Lux Restaurant Awards. Her name's Candice Phillips. And she runs and owns a fine dining restaurant. I don't know if you like fine dining. I'm not the biggest fan of fine dining myself.
I think when the occasion calls for it.
Yeah.
Like if we're celebrating something or you just want a romantic night out. But I don't know if I just wake up and like, let's go do it now.
Every regular weekend, do a fine dining. Maybe there are those people, lucky you. But we're going to be chatting a little bit about fine dining, the restaurant awards that she has won, and also just looking at the industry in South Africa. Are we improving? Are we very much the same when you go to different restaurants? So a whole chat around that. And then, as always, on a Thursday after 2, it's the consumer feature with Wendy Nola, the consumer ninja. And this is an interesting one today. So if you love consuming mints and maybe you like to eat leaner mints, so that will be labeled lean mints. It's leaner because it has less fat in. But there are laws in the country that govern how much fat is supposed to be in this mints. So this one guy was always thinking, well, there's too much mints. There's too much fat in the mints. So he got the inspectors involved to, look at this. The inspectors went and they did tests on this mince, and the supermarkets who produced the mince are vindicated that they were in line with the government regulations on how much fat is supposed to be in your mince.
That's so interesting.
So we're going to be chatting to one of the supermarket groups as well as Wendy and a whole lot more on the Consumer Hour this afternoon.
All right, that's what's coming up between 1 and 3 p.m. on 702 afternoons with Jonathan Kabazela.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
All right, 20 minutes now before 12 o'clock. Let me first start with your calls on WhatsApps and then go back to my guest. Charles, you're calling us from Sandton. Good morning. What are your thoughts?
Hi, Clement. How are you?
Sharp. How are you?
Good. Clement, I completely agree why the government is regulating or wants to regulate this industry. And of course, there will always be some friction between the business people, entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth, especially when you are in a free market. However, last year, for example, my wife went with her friends to Midrand, and there's a place there where they do their art, drawing, and so on. But apparently, during that time that she was there, she had to buy some snacks, which included some shortbread and some cookies and so on. And she arrived home intoxicated, completely intoxicated. Somebody that has never drunk, somebody that has never smoked. We were so scared. It took her 24 hours to cleanse her body. We were very scared, and since then she doesn't go that place because she feels that as a Muslim she could not even go there because how dare they could just sell things without even labeling properly, and only later on she knew or she heard that this had some cannabis in it. And I understand why the government wants to regulate it, unless the guy is saying, okay, it is happening, but it's not happening everywhere.
Yeah, geez, that's so scary, Charles. For someone to just go in to buy cookies and they're incorrectly labeled, they contain cannabis and they're affected. That's really quite crazy. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Here are some of the WhatsApp voice notes that came through.
Good day, Clement. Sibusiso here. I've been an advocate for THC and CBD use for years now, more particularly the drops and gummies. I use it for anxiety and pain, and this ban is going to force one to go to a pharmacy to pay a higher amount to get the same relief, and at times the THC CBD products are a bit cheaper and they last longer compared to a pill. So this is going to greatly affect well-beings of people that suffer like that.
Hi, so this industry is so badly regulated, and the regulations are badly enforced and monitored, and many of these manufacturers, producers, packers, distributors, they are not being monitored. They don't have adequate food safety management systems in place. They are not certified. They're not being inspected. They don't have regular testing protocols in place. So a lot of the products that are available to the consumers, there's no way of trusting that whatever claim they're making is actually valid. So it's a little bit like the wild, wild west out there. Maybe the ban was badly enforced or communicated, but something needs to be done in this industry to implement appropriate regulations and appropriate controls, enforcement, monitoring, testing, checking, the labeling, etc., etc.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Nati, let me start with you. Maybe the first thing to ask you is the response from Penny. Did that clarify and respond to your question? And you're happy, of course, to respond to some of the inputs that are being shared by some of our listeners.
Yeah, thanks, Clement. Look, I appreciate any attempt from government to try and classify cannabis at a product level. And I think that is what we should do. I am more confused after her answer. This whole thing about the health supplements is interesting. Thinking why, once again, hemp seed oil is defined as a health supplement and olive oil on the shelf is not. Same with the hemp protein powder, why that's a food supplement or a health supplement and not a foodstuff like pea protein powder that you can buy on any shelf, for instance. So that is confusing. But I think the real confusion here maybe came from the industry in the first place, where we created confusion for many of us to try and get around current legalities. And I apologize if that image has been cast out there, like the previous listener said, that we are ignoring regulations. But I can assure listeners that from inside the industry, I mean, I was involved, I'm still with the first cannabis-specific analytical laboratory, Cure Analytics, that was formed in South Africa in 2019 already, from industry to try and self-regulate, to test, to make sure that we provide safe products out there. But ultimately, these products need to be separated in what exactly they are. Like a hemp seed oil is nothing different than another culinary vegetable oil. If we talk about this edible sector, that's a different ballgame. We must go and look at how do we currently regulate infused alcohol products? How do we regulate gels, these little jellies in little containers, and the sachets that you can buy at the counter in liquor stores? It's first of all definitely no under 18 space, and then there's regulations around that because cannabis does harm. Now, if there's assumed harm in the case because alcohol does harm. Now, if there's assumed harm in the cannabis space, that harm needs to be managed in a similar matter, because we're ultimately talking here about adult responsible use or recreational use, just like the alcohol sector. And I mean, we can consider the whole plant, we can break up into individual parts. Hemp as a fiber is not the cannabis industry or sector. Hemp as a fiber fits in with other fibers, natural fibers like wool, like sisal, like those things. And it must find its place within those sectors and within the regulations within those sectors. We don't need special regulations for things like that. We don't need special regulations for hemp seed oil. We've already got the food safety regulations and the labeling regulations for culinary oils on the market.
Yeah, I'll get Campbell to Penny Campbell to respond to that. Yeah, Dr. Leroux, your thoughts?
Thank you, Clement. Yeah, I don't have that much to add. I think it's interesting to hear the debate. I think it's clearly important that we regulate the psychoactive part of things, but I think that we do need to look at the whole society approach of how we do these things, and not just react to maybe a few people who are not doing it correctly. And I think ultimately we over-regulation is a problem in our economy. I think we have hit this fly with the bazooka, and we need to maybe walk these regulations back. So from the DS perspective, we think that we just need to reconsider them. We need to hear the industry's insights about this. And I think particularly in looking at the different parts of the cannabis plant, that we look at the specific parts that should be regulated and the other parts that should not be regulated. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And before I get to Penny, there's a WhatsApp message here from Rafila who says, Clement, the blanket ban is unacceptable. Hemp products have a lot of good benefits. These need to be protected. Hemp bricks for construction, biogas, textiles, edibles, food supplements. There are innumerable benefits to this growing industry. A ban will open the black market and leave the cannabis and hemp plants open to abuse. The various government departments need to work as a unit to educate, monitor, and regulate. Yes, regulation and taxation does need to happen. Penny, your thoughts on also, I suppose, what Nate said and what this listener says as well. And I wonder, are you sitting with the other stakeholders here? So before even this ban was gazetted, was announced, did you sit down to maybe warn or even understand from industry stakeholders and also maybe reflect on the consequences of this ban? So are you talking to each other, I suppose, is the question I'm asking.
Yes, Clement, we had one industry and all the role players in government interaction already in 2023. And I had presented at that workshop to indicate what food is regarded as and what ingestibles are regarded as. So to come back to the point around what was raised with olive oil comparison and whey protein powder. Now, I think we need to appreciate, and many countries approach hemp like this. They treat it as a novel food, meaning it's something new. It's not something that has traditionally been regarded as a foodstuff. And then they approve its use as a foodstuff. And that's the path we are mandated by the SAPRA-D scheduling to do. The second thing is, in the food regulatory space, we have what we call the Joint World Health Organization and Food and Agricultural Organization Codex Alimentarius Commission. And in that, we are bound to ensure consumer protection and fair trade. And when we're talking about fair trade, we want to be trading with products that everybody agrees what the standards are in relation to them. So when it comes to olive oil and whey powder and traditional foods, there are standards already set by Codex Alimentarius. There are acceptable daily intakes for issues that are likely to influence health from a safety and health perspective. So, for example, acceptable daily intakes for various pesticides that might be used on even cannabis plants. And that has not happened as yet at Codex. So a lot of importers have been saying, but such and such country regulates it as food. And we cannot regard what another country does as being equivalent to what happens in South Africa. And that's why we also needed to indicate that if you want to play in the foodstuff space, then you need to abide by the rules of the foodstuff space. And what is our regulatory framework in relation to that? And so that's why we've had to indicate this prohibition of calling it a foodstuff. As I said before, ingestibles is where the hemp seed oil and the hemp seed flour have traditionally held themselves because they've been available in health shops as well as in open supermarkets, because it's if they have CBD in them, it's or claiming to have CBD in them by way of the description on the label, then those are then have been classified as Schedule 0. And then the interesting aspect about the person who says, my use for it is to deal with my anxiety. So that is already telling you they're trying to deal with a medical condition using a product. And I don't want to say that that product is a foodstuff. I want to say it's a consumable product out there, and it is available for them to use for that purpose. But when we put it in food, we need to understand that food is something that is ordinarily eaten or drunk. And the science around CBD and all of the other cannabidiols, I didn't want to force myself to say that word. I'm glad the other person in the studio was able to say it well as well. There's research around what is happening in relation to that, and the EU has described that CBD oil can be genotoxic, which means that there are certain individuals that might be influenced or impacted on if they were to consume. And it's found that mainly women have a lower tolerance either for the THC or for the CBD. So that's why that one caller's wife had such a reaction to what she had consumed.
Yeah. Penny Campbell, the director for the Food Control Unit at the National Department of Health. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to Dr. Carl Leroux as well, who is the DA's Deputy Spokesperson on Health, and Nati Ferreira, who is in the cannabis industry. It's 6 minutes now before 12 o'clock.
At Zero, we know there's nothing small about small business. It's starting from scratch. It's the 9 to 5 and the 5 to 9. We don't think of you as small. We think of you as self-made. Search Zero with an X, accounting software for self-made business.
Did you know that all residential complexes are legally required to register with the Community Scheme Ombud Service, or CSOS? Registration is easy and it's free. All registered schemes can access a quick and affordable alternative dispute resolution body and can also learn more about the rights and responsibilities of people living within a community scheme. We'd like to appeal to all unregistered community schemes to register with the CSOS today. Visit csos.org.za to find out more.
When it comes to corporate travel, South African Airways knows what you need. SAA services are designed specifically for the business traveler. Experience competitive rates, flexible travel options with waived change fees, and fully refundable and flexible tickets for a hassle-free journey.
SAA dedicated key account management means your travel needs are meticulously handled every step of the way. Plus, earn Voyager miles on every trip and relax in our luxurious business class lounges. South African Airways, where your travel needs are our priority. We don't just fly you, we prioritize your travel needs. Visit flysaa.com or call your nearest travel agent to tailor your corporate travel experience. South African Airways, transforming business travel.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
Right, it's 4 minutes now before 12 o'clock. Let me just wrap up with a few messages that have come through. Anonymous says, Clement, I'm a dietitian and regularly prescribe hemp seeds as a protein source for my client. Does it mean I can't anymore? And it won't be found in the supermarket. And that's precisely the point that Nati was raising there. Another one says, Clement, the law states that cannabis products, including edibles, must be sold in enclosed areas to members. By selling from these kiosks, children are buying these products, which are seen as a getaway drug. And lastly, another person says, Clement, sounds like they didn't consider any of the stakeholders at all, government that is. My issue is, instead of taxing this industry, they decided to raise VAT. Like, what was the purpose of allowing private use if the government is never gonna tax it? That's another message there on the WhatsApp line. You'll find out what's coming up on the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener after this.
We want to hear what you have to say.
Go to 702 Listens on primemediaplus.com and share your views.
We want to deliver more of what matters to you.
702 Listens.
Let's walk the talk.
It's Pick and Pay Hypermarket's long weekend price card. For 3 days only, get 2 1.5 litre Coca-Cola original taste, less sugar for only 20 Rand. That's right, 2 for only 20 Rand.